Kenya was never an African country that was high on my list to visit. Y'all, come close. I did not expect this.
Oh, no. The village, the traditions, customs, all of that. So this is exciting.
Dancing with us, no problem.
No problem.
Habari.
No problem. Hi.
Habari.
Habari.
Nzuri sana.
Habari.
Habari. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Welcome.
Welcome back, my beautiful, intelligent, resilient gems. It's your girl Niani E, aka Mighty Intellectual. If you are new here, I visited Ghana for the first time in 2021. I took an extended stay in 2022 to 2023, and I've been back ever since. If you're interested in content about the diaspora, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, you need to lock into my channel. And you know what? While you're here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. All right, let's settle this once and for all, y'all. You guys know how much I love Ghana. We keep hearing Ghana, especially since 2019, the year of return. Ghana jollof rice versus Niger jollof rice. Ghanaian culture, Ghanaian food. But y'all, I have a gem that I want to drop into your spirit. A country that I got to visit that was never on my list of African countries to visit until recently. We're going to get into the beauty of Kenya and some of my first impressions. Kenya is not what you think. I originally planned to visit Dakar, Senegal, but the tickets were way expensive by the time I wanted to go. So I was searching for a country that would be cheaper, and I'm so happy that I chose Kenya. The tickets were cheaper, and I literally had an experience that I will never forget. So the first thing is the culture and the vibes, okay? When you think of Kenya, I know that you have this certain idea of what it's supposed to be like. Maybe you picture a safari with the tree that's like leaning to the side and the sunset. Comment below if you know what I'm talking about. Like when I think of Africa prior, I think of that image. But let me tell you something about Kenya, baby. The culture in Kenya was very different. I drove about 5 hours away from Nairobi to the Maasai Mara area. We went on the safari, but we also got to tour the Maasai village, y'all. Oh my God. It's a 10 out of 10 experience. We booked a tour guide and we drove about 5 to 6 hours away. The drive was insane. It was a shared tour. Actually all of the tourists that were with my friend and I were all non-Black. Okay, so that is something to point, and that is a very strong difference between visiting Kenya and visiting Ghana. So I'll get to that in a later point. The Kenyan people are really calm. They're very soft-spoken. When we got to Maasai Mara, I don't know if you've ever seen the videos of men jumping in their traditional attire. When I think of Kenya, that is definitely one of the images that come to mind. I got to learn why they do that. It was so freaking cool, okay? One of the things we got to do was participate in the traditional ceremony of jumping that the men do before marriage. And so what we found out is that, and you guys comment below, Kenyans, if you're on this video, or if you're just very knowledgeable, to give us a little bit more information about this tradition. The young boys, when they turn about 15 to 16, they go off. This is kind of like a rites of passage. They go off to the bush, however many years or whatever the case, shave their head, dyed with red henna. In order to come back to their village, they have to just show that they've learned the Maasai tradition, the Maasai culture through different traditions. And so when they come back, they're ready to marry. This is so funny to me because I literally would have never thought this is why they jump. The males are about to get married. They have to pay a dowry. That could be 15 cows. That could be whatever the dowry is, right? Jump the highest, you pay the least. Listen, I don't know about you, but if I was a Maasai man, I would be jumping as high as I can, okay? That was just like a fun thing that we got to learn. And I don't know if it's intentional or if it's if it is genuinely just a deeply rooted portion of their culture in that region, but they still have the traditional homes. They are still, herding the cows, and they're still growing their own food, and they're still using the natural resources from the land. And that was one of the questions that someone I spoke to had when I got back to the States, is like, oh, don't they have enough money? Don't they have enough resources at this point to modernize their homes? My response, and this is genuinely what I think that they just appreciate their culture, and just because it's not what we consider normal or what we consider modern doesn't mean it's not valid, or you guys get what I mean. So comment below if you're from Kenya, if you know anything about that region, the Maasai, where the Maasai tribe is. Do they live in the traditional homes to preserve their culture, or is it something else? I'm genuinely curious. So comment below if you have any details on that, so I can report back to the folks here. Okay. Kenya gives you the vibe of a very metropolitan city, like a step under New York. It's not quite New York, but it gives you that fast-paced vibe, and it gives you the tall skyscrapers, the buildings, the things they have. Like, it's very modern. So for my folks who are looking for a place that has similar things to the US as far as infrastructure, Kenya could be one of your first visits to the continent. The whole of Kenya is not super modernized or metropolitan. So now we're going to talk about the cost and travel experience. Kenya is more cost effective to visit than Ghana. When you go to Kenya, it is all the way on the east side of Africa. So you're likely going to have a stop somewhere in Europe some kind of layover in Europe before you get to Kenya. And those flights in total could be like 20 hours. It could be 24. It could be 30, depending on who you fly with. The flight to Kenya costed us about $990 something or $980 something per person, which is quite cheap compared to, let's say you're going to Ghana. Those tickets can be starting at $1,500 up to like $3,000, depending on the time that you go. And this is the economy, folks. I'm in the back of the back. Okay. Our accommodation ran us about $200 per person, and we stayed for a little over a week. When it comes to touring, and we'll get into tourism in just a second, but when it comes to touring, local experiences in Nairobi, they were very reasonably priced. But when you're trying to go outside of Nairobi and you're trying to do those safaris, those can become really, really expensive. Those experiences can run you from $500 for a 3-day safari per person to, $700-$600 per person, depending on what company or what tourism business that you book with. So just keep that in mind. Food and lifestyle. Now, I am vegetarian, which it should be favorable for me in East Africa, right? My friend, she's vegan. That's a little bit tougher for her in Africa in general, because there's meat in almost everything. When you ask folks to give you something vegan, they kind of look at you crazy. However, Kenya has a lot of Indian influence dishes, and I don't know if Kenya is influenced by India or if India has been influenced by Kenya. You guys let me know in the comments as far as the food. Kenya scared me. Y'all scared me a bit when I first got there, because the restaurants we went to, the food was very mid. The food was very mid. It was given like a 5 out of 10. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to leave a bad review on the Kenyan food. Like, please. And so I think that because of my friend's diet, she's vegan, it was the choice of restaurants that we came across. We did figure out later in our trip that there was a restaurant at the rooftop of our Airbnb hotel. And when I tell you guys, that restaurant, that tikka masala, baby, I had it 2 times in a row because it was so good. Can't really speak too much on the food, so you guys let me know, like, what are your favorite dishes in, let's say, Nairobi specifically, to try tourism and experiences. I was very intentional about making sure that I paid attention to how their tourism sector worked. We booked several tours. We booked about 3 of them during our trip. But the most important one for me was the Maasai Mara tour. I wanted to compare and contrast Kenya tourism and Ghana tourism because I do have a business. When you go to Kenya, the tourism, it is focused on the culture. So you do get to go to places like Nairobi County and you get to go to the Maasai village, and they do have that unique culture in that area. But more so, what I noticed is that their tourism is more known for the safaris, the nature, that type of thing. There were other folks who went on the Maasai Mara tour with us, and not everybody was just doing the Maasai Mara safari. Some folks were going further to do even longer safaris. Some folks were going to do hikes, and then a lot of the folks, actually all of them that were on the tour with us, were non-Black and non-African. So I think that one of the reasons that we saw so many, white people and people that were non-Black and non-African was because of that target of, nature and the safaris and the giraffes and things like that. For those safari type tours, it's not going to be private. You're going to be with other folks. If you want it to be private, you typically have to pay an additional fee for your tour to be private, which is a lot. When you're in Ghana, usually when you go on a tour, it's probably going to be private. Even the vehicle being shared. I enjoyed my tour, and I loved how smoothly everything worked. The tour guides were very friendly, but that was a huge noticing, the demographic of people who were coming to visit Kenya. So if you're from the country, or if you're an avid traveler, just let us know in the comments, why is it that when you go to Kenya specifically, a lot of folks who are visiting, our tourists, are non-Black and non-African. That was so interesting to me. It's one thing to, see a giraffe at the zoo. It's another thing to see it up close, personal, and get to feed it. It's also another thing to see it in its natural habitat at the Maasai Mara safari. That was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. So if you don't go to Kenya for anything else, definitely go for that real-time experience with the safaris and the nature. It's a beautiful country. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see everything. I didn't get to go to the beaches. I didn't get to go to Mombasa. I definitely have to go back to Kenya, and I have to stay for at least 2 weeks so that I can get a chance to visit Mombasa and some of the beachy areas in Kenya. Now that we got that out of the way, I just wanted to go through point by point to let you guys know what I experienced for each of those things. I knew that West Africa had my heart, specifically Ghana, so it was never really a priority to go to East Africa, but I'm so glad I did. I felt welcome. The Kenyans were very open and very soft-spoken. My friend, she literally had a time. The only thing I have to say is I wish I would have been able to stay longer. I don't think I got to experience all that I could have experienced. And it's one thing to visit a country for a quick 5-day, 1-week trip versus staying for a month and really get to explore those pockets that tourists most of the time don't get to explore, to have conversations with locals that you typically wouldn't have, all of those things. There was one experience that I had that was very frustrating at the hair shop, where a young lady, had quoted us a price to braid our hair, and by the time we finished, the price was completely different, and it was a US dollar price for our hair. And that was very disappointing because we had to go back and forth with her. And I noticed that is actually something that's common on the continent in general. That's what, you really have to be clear. It's almost as if you need to get a contract written. You understand, I understand, we understand, what am I paying for, or what am I ordering? And make sure you understand, they understand, everybody is in agreement about the price of things or what the service is before you sit yourself down in the chair. before you get the food. And, you know, like, just make sure everyone is on the same page about what's happening. And I noticed that in Ghana as well. Like, just be clear. So I think that was probably like the worst part of the trip to Kenya, that incident with the hair braider. And it was unfortunate because we were very excited to go to that shop specifically. But outside of that, Kenya, you know, Kenya owes me nothing. Okay, Kenya owes me nothing. I will be back. You guys comment below to let me know what's a good time to visit Kenya. Oh my gosh, how did I forget this? Culture, culture, culture. So the song Jambo, Jambo Bwana, Ingari Nani, Mzuri Sana, Wageni, Mani Bishwa, Kenya Yetu, Hakuna Matata. I don't know if I said it right. This is a song from Kenya in the language of Swahili from Africa. Hello, mister. Hello, sister. No problem, no worry. Jambo, Jambo Bwana, habari gani, mzuri sana, wageni, mwakaribishwa, nyumba yetu, hakuna matata. Okay, let me pause it. I don't want to get copyright. I'm gonna have to make another video about Kenya because I did not get through everything, but that song was literally like the cornerstone, the foundation of this trip. Okay, I'm sure my friend will comment at some point and let y'all know, but we went to a beading organization that supports women in Kenya, and they did this traditional dance with us. It was a welcome dance, and they also sung the song, and it was just, y'all, I just love the culture. I love the culture. I love the culture. And not even just Kenya, just African culture in general from the different countries. It's very rich. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not even like certain songs, you don't have to understand the lyrics. It's very spiritual. It's very, you know, if you're black, you just understand. You know what I mean? I wish I could remember the name of the beading place. Comment below if you know what I'm talking about. If you made it this far, you are a family. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on your notification bell so you can be the first to know when I drop my next video. I want to know in the comments below, have you visited Kenya yet? Do you plan on visiting Kenya? If you're Kenyan, drop a comment below to school us on the culture. Let us know something very interesting about the culture that I may have missed or I didn't see. And I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.